too many defensemen on this team that aren't consistently playing defense. It felt like as the season went on that the team was so concerned and obsessed with the lack of offense and producing goals that a lot of the defenders on this team, whose primary responsibilities should be to prevent the other team from scoring goals, had to shift their focus way too much to the offensive side. And so I think we're working our way through rebalancing that out with our players and our lineups. Now, I'm not worried about it, but it is something that does need to get fixed here at some point in time, and is something that we should all keep an eye on for necessary improvement moving forward in our hockey season. Now, there is one other main topic and issue with the Wild and their coaching change that I do want to address while we're on the subject. Now, living in Minnesota all my life, for the past several years, for the past several months, past several weeks, and especially this week, since the change at coach was made, we had heard a lot of people here in Minnesota talk about how former coach Mike Yeo lost the locker room, and how it appeared that the team was not putting out an effort and had quit on him, was a expression that had been used quite often up here, is how the team quit on him. And that is a concept and a topic that I want to address and just throw my 2 cents in on. And of course you can take it however you like. So here's my thing. That's what she said. No. Anyway, here's my deal. In hockey, or really any team sport for that matter, okay, we're really talking all team sports for the sake of this next part of the argument. But in team sports, when you have a few players here, a player there, something like that, where there isn't a consistent focus and effort and energy and motivation, that is on the individuals. It is always part of the individual's own responsibility to be motivated, to be energized, to be focused, to be ready to perform. Now, having said that, there is a person employed by the team who one of their specific job duties and responsibilities is to motivate the players, is to inspire the players, to get the best out of the players. Whose job would that be, I wonder? Oh yeah, the head coach. Therefore, theoretically, it stands to reason that when there is an issue with a team where it's not just a couple players or some of the guys here and there, when it is literally every guy on the roster is not motivated and is not playing up to their potential, and you are not getting the best out of every single one of your players, that does not fall onto the individual players. When it is a team-wide thing, it falls on the shoulders of the coach, because that is one of their job descriptions. It's one of their responsibilities, to get the most out of your team, to get them to play up to and beyond their potential, to have them consistently focused and energized and ready to perform and perform. That's one of your main jobs as a coach. So when the whole team is failing at that, it's not every single one of those individuals making a conscious decision and choice to quit on anything. Because you're not just quitting on your head coach. You're quitting on every one of your fans. You're quitting on the butts in the seats. You're quitting on your pride in yourself, okay? Do not try to tell me for 1 second that every single player on this hockey team or any sports team sits around in a locker room and goes, well, gee, guys, if we just went out there and tried our hardest and played our best, we'd be really good and we'd win a lot of games. But let's not do that because we don't like the coach we have and we'd like to have somebody different. The only way we're going to get somebody different is if we lose enough games to get that person fired. So let's go out there and not intentionally not give a good effort. Let's choose to not give a good effort intentionally so that we can get our head coach fired. That is absolute absurdity. It is ridiculous. It is nonsense. But that is the type of garbage that half of the morons here in Minnesota are obsessed with believing as truth. When you've got a sports team that is not succeeding and you have reason to believe that they have the talent to be more successful and they're not producing in relation, in correlation to the amount of talent that they have on their team, that's the fault of the coach. Okay, that is their job. They're the leader. They're supposed to oversee the whole thing. Okay, so when there's problems with the whole thing, it's on them. But do not be one of these idiots who thinks that every single player on the team is just a spoiled prima donna, who has collusion to, overthrow the people in power. Like, come on. It is absolutely absurd, okay? Athletes don't make the conscious decision to not respond to a coach, okay? That's not something where they're sitting there totally neutral and they go, do I want to respond to this guy and be successful, or do I not want to respond to this guy and not be successful? Of course they want to respond, okay? They want to be successful. They want to win. But when the coach cannot get any of the players to respond, that's not on every single one of the players. That's on the one coach, okay? Seriously, is it the 35 people who are wrong and the one person who is right? Really? We're going to go with those odds? Or is it more likely that, the 35 people are right and the one person is wrong? I mean, what's more likely? What's more realistic? Seriously. And again, it's nothing against Mike Yeo. Mike Yeo is a great, super likable, super nice guy. But that's where, and I'm finding this more and more often now, the more I'm a part of it here on the other side, at least anyway. But I'm finding it more and more to be the case, especially here in Minnesota, that you cannot trust the local sports media's analysis of who should stay, who should go, who's to blame, whose fault things are, things like that. You can't ever trust your local sports media, unfortunately. And here's why. The reason why you can't do that is because your local sports media, okay, for example, we'll take just, who we got here in Minnesota, they work with these athletes and coaches on a weekly, sometimes daily, monthly, and yearly basis. They establish relationships. You like certain people. You want them to succeed. You root for their well-being. What that does, though, is it gets in the way of your unbiased analysis and having an accurate assessment of things. You had so many people in here saying, don't fire Yeo. Yeo's not the problem. And now that we did, and we're winning, and it all turned around, and hey, everybody who said Yeo was the problem was right, and we should have did this sooner. There's so many people here that because they really liked Mike Yeo personally and got to know him that way, that say, well, it's still on the players. The players quit on him, and now they're giving the effort to this guy. And if they would have just given the same amount of effort, to Yeo that they're giving to the new guy, then Yeo would have been success. Then they would have won the games with Yeo and stuff. None of that adds up. None of that makes sense. That's just you trying to protect your boy. is all it is. Okay? We see it with players, coaches, you name it. So be warned. It's just a word of advice and trying to pass wisdom along to you. If you're trying to, come to a determination of, like I said, who needs to stay, who needs to go, who's to blame, things like that, whether it be for the Wild or any other sports team that you happen to be a fan of, you cannot trust the local sports media because they're in too deep. They're all trees in the same forest. Okay, so they've got ulterior motives, and you need to be aware of that and understanding of that. Now, the final thing I want to chime in on the Wild and former Coach Yo, before we move on to other things here on the show. Like I said, it's going to be a shorter, quicker show here this week. But a week or two ago, I was listening to Cape Fan in the morning, and I heard Coach Yo talking in this pregame in his practice interview or whatever on Cape Fan that they like to do once a week. And he made a comment that my jaw dropped when I heard it. And had I been, and immediately what I thought was, wow, if I was a player on this Wild team, I'm done with Yo. Like, I won't. This guy doesn't have any of our backs, clearly. But what he said when they were talking about the losing streak and, what do you got to do to get things turned around and things like that, he said that this Wild team just simply isn't very talented. I'm quoting that. They're just simply not very talented. We don't have a lot of talent. We are not going to go into an arena and win a game by being more talented than the other team, because we're not. We can still go in and win games. The only way we're going to win games, and we can still win games, but the only way we're going to do that is if we go in and play sound, fundamental team hockey. That's what this guy said just like a week or two before getting fired. We don't have any talent on this team, and none of our guys are very talented. And I couldn't believe it. This is a team that, at the beginning of the season you said, we're super talented. We've got the talent to go to the finals, play for a cup, get past the second round, because we were already a second round team with our talent last year, and we didn't lose any of the talent off of that team. So the hypocritical element to what he said, as well as the self-preserving survival mode, throw a big shovel full of poop on everyone else here while I still try to stay so fresh and so clean. That type of just attitude and mentality of, it can't be me, it's got to be all of their fault, it's not my fault. That was the one thing with Yo that I didn't really like at any point in time, especially this year, was he never took any accountability whatsoever. It was always, the buck was always getting passed off onto the players, and that right there is a sign in a leadership role and position that you don't have the right person here, because a successful, qualified person in that position, whether it be well-founded or not, takes and shoulders the burden of blame and responsibility. Like I said, whether it be well-founded or not, whether it be true or not, you're the leader. You step up and you take it, you carry it, and you lead by example. You don't lead by making excuses and blaming others and leaving yourself, unaccountable. And that's where I really felt like the final, okay, this is going to end. It's just a matter of, is it going to be today or tomorrow, or the next day? But that's really